What's going on, everybody? Today's film room, we're going to be checking out the Vikings passing game, seeing as the Steelers just hired their pass game coordinator to be their new OC under Mike McCarthy. Really, I just wanted to show you guys some things that I hope he brings with him to Pittsburgh. Specific concepts, just some of the different formations, ways they utilize motion to create advantages, all in all. Utilize their best players. So this is a pretty deep dive. I cut it down to around 15 clips or so for time purposes. Shout out to Bobby Peters. His resources helped me get right with this, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. And let's see where this game kind of takes us here. So one of my favorite concepts I've talked about a lot on the channel, maybe haven't broken it down in depth, is the wave concept. So all wave is like two high crossing routes, usually paired with a deep post on the backside. So let's talk a little bit about this formation. So when we talk about when we're facing man coverage is what do we like against man coverage? We like runaway routes, right? So they're going to put Justin Jefferson in the slot at the top of the screen. The Packers are going to be playing a coverage called one cross. So they are going to take this weak side safety right here, and he's going to take the first crossing route. So he's going to be basically getting a double here on Justin Jefferson. Now, I'll kind of play this really slow here so you can see the nice release by the number one to the bottom of the screen, winning that inside leverage. And once he, kind of approaches the break point right here, he's going to utilize a stair step technique. So right here, a little pressure step on the outside foot. And that's going to create some separation once he has the defender stacked. And really that first underneath crossing route is the number one read in the progression. Really nice protection for Darnold, and they hit a big play strike. So this is a really common concept that you'll see called around the NFL right now, but I love these like deep crossing routes against man coverage, running away from guys, especially when we can, get a tight split like that and get a quick leverage advantage. And, they can get to this from various different like personnel groupings. So this is another example right here of them getting to it under center. This is, again, 11 personnel under center, play action. So when we talk about those deep runway routes, so we've seen a lot over the past several years, more and more like two high shells, quarters coverage, right? Like the Fangio influence, because those deep crossing routes like really became a problem for like second level defenders trying to robot out and carry those across. It's difficult for man coverage, even for corners, to carry those guys across the field. So the natural kind of way to counter that defensively is, okay, we're going to play quarters on early downs, right? So the nice part about that is that you can cap these crossing routes. So you can use these safeties as kind of backstops for the crossers and help protect your corners, help protect your linebackers. Now, what do we like to say all the time? Anytime you get quarters, alert the post. So this is where the backside post comes in. Right here, Jordan Addison gives a nice little corner post route. That's an awesome grab by him. He's an undersized guy, always plays really big at the catch point. Been a lot of social media talk, I feel like, about him this week just because maybe one of their beat writers said that he might be on his way out of there. But when he's on the field, man, he's really, really dynamic. That's an awesome throw from Darnold and a big-time chunk, using play action to throw the ball down the field. So when I think of KOC's offense, really the first thing that comes to mind is like just the way that they stretch the field, throwing the ball down the field. It is a very aggressive passing offense. And one of the things I like too, just the construction of the passing game is really, really sound. So I talked about that a little bit with McCarthy's offense too, with everything kind of making sense. So right here, we're going to, originally we're going to come out, we're going to start in kind of a two-back look right here, and then we're going to shift, have our fullback as basically a wide receiver, but he's going to be off the ball. Now, this doesn't really look like much, but I saw this happen like 3 times, I think, when I was studying film just on this concept alone, where, again, this is going to be another one of those like wave concepts, so we're going to get Justin Jefferson on the underneath crosser. Now, the Jets are actually playing, just simple like cover 3 right here. Now, this cornerback that's getting depth, he is the hook to curl player, so he doesn't have any other threat to this side of the field. So what he's going to do is like he's going to start hunting up these crossers. Like he's watched film all week. He knows that's how they like to get Justin Jefferson the ball. Now, watch what happens here in the backfield. We kind of get that slot receiver to kind of come out and check down to the opposite side of the field, and of course they drop him. And this dude isn't like super dynamic or anything like that, but that's an easy earned first down for your offense, just from well designed, having the field spaced properly. And now we'll kind of go into some other stuff. Probably my other like favorite concept that KOC leans a lot on is the bow concept. So we talked about this on the channel several times too, but Haven't seen this as much in Pittsburgh as opposed to like the way that we're seeing around the NFL. So really all the bow concept is just a high-low on the second level defenders. Usually get some type of like pivot gather route. So usually the underneath route will be like a little like 5-yard hookup or something like that. They can usually settle or they can run out. And then what you're going to get is this kind of like 10 to 12-yard end breaker. Normally the route kind of starts, it's a speed cut starting at 10 yards, rounding to 12 yards, and you're going to throw the ball to the middle of the field. And we'll kind of watch some of these plays, how they play out versus different coverages. But again, this is using the gravity of some of their best players to their advantage right here. So I'll kind of let this thing play. So the number one read. So really what the guy you're reading in this specific instance right here, right, is going to be, it's going to be this second level hook defender. So as soon as he starts like clamping down, you can see like Darnold's like throwing this thing with crazy anticipation. If he's flat-footed or if he's, on his toes a little bit, we can whiz that ball right behind his head to the intermediate middle area of the field. And you guys don't need me to tell you this, but the Steelers have had a lot of trouble getting the ball to this area of the field throughout the past, really decade. But Darnold, one of the things that made him a good fit in this system is like that dude will stand in there. He will rip this thing with anticipation. That's a great throw. And I think that these are some of the best, after watching Justin Jefferson over the past several days, he can do pretty much everything. But I think these like speed cuts towards the intermediate area of the field, some of the best stuff that he really does. And, I think for me personally, being able to hit guys on the run, this is why I talk about middle of the field usage just so much, is because this is where like yards after catch happen. And this is also like where your worst coverage defenders often are, right? So right here, you can see Hawkinson, he's going to run this little pivot gather. And this is against like a Tampa 2 or cover 2 coverage. And again, you can see that guy kind of leans up, tries to take away Hawkinson underneath. We can throw the ball right behind his head, beats the pole runner right there and hits Jefferson in stride, and boom, there's an explosive play. So you want to add explosive plays to your offense, you got to get the ball to the middle of the field. These end breakers, it's where a lot of space is. You can see, again, Darnold just throwing this thing. As soon as he gets, all his cleats in the ground, back foot, rip it. It's an awesome throw. So, a lot of what Darnold does in terms of, throwing the ball aggressively down the field was a really nice fit in this offense. I also think, KLC is a really good play caller. Like, he understands some of maybe the built-in tendencies that they have. So maybe by formation or things like that. And he understands like how to build encounters off of that. I think it's good game plan prep, whether that's the passing game coordinator or the play caller itself. But right here, you'll see kind of a counter off of that, right? So instead of, getting this little pivot gather, we're going to, motion to a very similar formation. He's going to break out against the leverage of the linebacker, right? This is just simple cover 3. But watch, we got the double move on top. Jordan Addison wide open. Taking aggressive of that outside cornerback, maybe trying to drive on that end breaker. Maybe that's a film study thing. Maybe they know that cornerback's a little bit aggressive. Maybe that's a backup, whatever. But again, having counters and things of that nature for your best players to create those explosive plays is a big part of, having a really solid offense, which they've had over the course of, his like 4 or 5 year run there, even though, they've had a different quarterback pretty much every year. They've had some issues along the offensive line. The run game has not been a strength for them, but they've still found a ways to create a lot of explosive plays in the passing game. And one of the ways that I think they're able to really do that is just by using formations. So like stacked formations. We'll talk a little bit about like some of the cluster stuff that they do in motion in general. So right here, they're going to start in this kind of like 2x2 open set. Now, one of the things you've probably caught on to by now is like the formations themselves, the width, the splits of the wide receivers look a lot different than McCarthy's offense. So McCarthy's offense is typically, when we watched film a couple weeks ago, it was like really, really spread out. This is a lot more like condensed, a lot tighter splits, right? Well, when we motion Hawkinson in here to kind of get him in the foot of this stack, what we're going to do is we're going to create a free release for him, right? So you can see what this does. His man and man coverage is now like outside leverage, and then we're going to be running a crossing route inside. So just by this simple motion or quick shift inside, we created like a leverage advantage for our tight end. We know that they're going to be trying to get, physical with Justin Jefferson. He fights off the press coverage. Now, again, really nice route here by Hawkinson. You see that exaggerated kind of stair step to hesitate the safety, and we get a huge explosive play. Again, over the middle of the field, trying to get guys running away from coverage. But really, it starts by just like simple stuff like motioning him in to a stack, get him a free release, get him a leverage advantage. And again, this is kind of one of the things that obviously, the Vikings passing offense all revolves around. Justin Jefferson, his gravity, everything that he can do for you. So you want to try to take advantage of that. You want to get him the ball a ton, but you want to take advantage of that too. So right here, the Falcons are going to be playing man coverage against him. They're going to motion him inside to become basically the new number 2 wide receiver, but he's going to be off the ball. Now, really, it's up to the defense. Like, how do they want to play this? So these simple motions can cause communication errors, right? So they want to stick A.J. Terrell on their best cornerback on Justin Jefferson, right? So motion at the snap. Again, he's outside leverage, but look at, who's guarding Jordan Addison. They're not really on the same page. So that cornerback that's got Addison, he's now inside leverage, and we're basically going to be running like a smash concept with a speed out, and then the corner route from Jefferson, get an easy touchdown in the red zone. So again, it really seems simple, but sometimes like I think offensive coordinators almost like make things too difficult on themselves. Like simple stuff like that can create big time advantages for your wide receivers and your quarterback. And this is another one of those examples. So again, motion at the snap. So using Jefferson's gravity, you can tell this is probably going to be some sort of man coverage because someone's going to go with him. So now we've got Terrell off of Jefferson, and now we've got the nickel traveling with him, right? So we're going to motion him, and this is just a return motion. This basically starts the same type of bunch formation that we were in previously, but it just changes the matchup for Jefferson. So right here, again, we've got this cornerback bubbling over. He's outside leverage, and then we're going to run like kind of a skinny post. And basically this first crossing route from Addison is going to occupy that middle field safety. So he's going to take the double, and then we're going to get one-on-one with our best player against their nickel corner. That's just too easy in the red zone. So this is like really simple, like football one-on-one stuff to me. But it's cool to like watch play out and just the execution at a really high level. Down in the red zone when things get really tight, you kind of need your offensive coordinators to do things for you to kind of create those really subtle, small advantages. So talked a lot about like motion and the snap. I sometimes think like the charting of motion itself can be kind of pointless, to be honest with you, because you don't necessarily need to motion like every single play for me to think that you're a good offensive coordinator or anything like that. I think it's really about like purposeful motion. Like what advantages are you creating? Sometimes I've been a little bit, I feel like maybe critiquing McCarthy's offense for using motion really just for like man zone tells, but not creating enough advantages for the receivers. That's why I talk about it being more of like a players over plays offense. So right here at this motion at the snap, we're really going to cut the field in half right here. So, with Addison, he's going to get a free release just based on the motion. And, off the stack with Jefferson. Now, the spacing is going to look a little bit weird here just because this ball ends up like hanging outside because Darnold's throwing it with so much anticipation. It really doesn't matter. But this is an awesome adjustment, awesome catch here. But really, this is just kind of a swirl route from Jefferson or a comeback from Addison. Really nice play, really nice hookup. But what I like about that play in general, just going back to it, is really cutting the field in half for the quarterback. So you think about, what do you do with an offense that maybe doesn't have a Dak Prescott or a prime Aaron Rodgers or something like that? Cutting the field in half and still being able to push the ball down the field, making the reads simplified for them and making sure they're blocked up by using additional bodies and protection can make some quarterbacks like feel a little bit more at home. And I think that's what the Vikings have done a really nice job with some of these play action, 7-step drop looks and things of that nature. And they had a couple like two-man concepts that I really liked. We just kind of saw that like comeback swirl. And then this one right here is kind of a similar thing. Now, again, just the effects of like what this motion does. So before the snap, we've got, who's this? Jefferson at the top of the screen. He's getting pressed. As this motion comes across, that corner is going to back up, right? And really what they're going to be playing is just kind of like a cover 3 buzz type of coverage. Now, right here, you can see basically we're putting a 2-on-1 on that boundary corner on the outside. So this is just a simple, like what I call like Oki pylon play, which is really just like a deep corner to Jefferson. And we kind of get this deep outbreaker, intermediate outbreaker to the slot. Wide open play basically puts that guy in conflict once the curl player doesn't get enough depth in his zone drop. So really easy completion. Again, another really explosive play. And there's a lot of that stuff really in this offense that I particularly like, just because there's another shot end zone wise of that catch by Addison. But, just utilizing extra bodies and protection, being able to get to like 12, 13 personnel, under center, things like that. All things that we talk about a lot, I feel like, on the podcast as far as like being important, you see within this offense, which is a good thing. And one of the newer things that I think we're seeing more and more in the NFL is like the use of these, what we call like cluster formations. I think that's the term that I've seen is like loose bunches. And really it just forces a little bit more communication on the defense if they want to play man coverage or get into some of their bunch checks, or maybe it just helps you like spread out the defense. So really this is like a simple like variation of spacing, kind of maybe like a new age version of it. But this is going to be Tampa 2 coverage from the Colts. You can see the Mike linebacker right here. He's going to open up to the strength of the passing attack. But as soon as he gets this like underneath OTB route, he's going to nail down on that. And then we're going to wrap Jefferson on this end breaker right behind him. Creates a ton of space at that second level of the defense right here. And you can kind of see it from Darnold's perspective. He's alerting it at the line of scrimmage. He knows exactly what he wants to get to. Boom, really nice hookup in stride for another explosive. Kind of look and see just some of the other ways that they'll kind of use some of these cluster formations. This is another variation of what I would classify as like spacing. Really old school concept with a little bit maybe of a new flavor just with the formation. But this is a third down conversion, I believe, like third and medium. Going to get this hookup right here. Both guys just kind of turning around at the ball, and then we're going to get the kind of spray Omaha route from Jefferson up at the top of the screen. So as soon as that curl flat defender, starts to kind of expand, we got an open window right there. Darnold does a really nice job ripping it. Again, zone coverage for the pickup on first down. So just, again, motioning at the snaps, stacks, bunches, cluster formations, things of that nature. All those things I think are, quality adds to the offense. And, one of the things I think a lot of people are curious about is like what Pat Fryermuth's role in this offense is going to be. So I kind of wanted to look a little bit at like TJ Hawkinson's usage and just see like kind of what that looked like. And, really one of the things I noticed was like just a lot more like choice routes. And these are things that I've been like begging for more of really in recent years with Pat. In particular. So right here, they're going to put him in another stack formation with Jefferson. He's going to be running the deep corner route. Now, whether this is like traditional, like Tampa 2, and the corner right here, number 1, if he's just getting depth because, he doesn't want Darnold to hit this corner route behind him or whatever, or if maybe this is 2 read, whatever you want to say. He's going to get a lot of depth, and Hawkinson's going to do a nice job reading the leverage of those underneath defenders, breaking out, getting the ball just for an easy first down conversion, make some magic happen after the catch. So I'm excited about seeing like a more like hopefully will be a more modern passing attack and trying to get the ball to your best players instead of like, playing buddy ball or force feeding players that don't really need the touches. Right here is another kind of choice concept that I really like, kind of show you guys the intent of this play. So Hawkinson does a really nice job like setting this up too and breaking inside. And this is another reason anytime you're installing like choice concepts into your playbook, you always want to try to tell your receivers that if they can break inside, if they can cross face, you want them to do that. And this is a big reason why, is because there's just more space, and that's where you get the huge chunk plays off yards after catch. Now, this linebacker right here, he's going to end up picking him up in coverage. He's worried about, once we get this formation and Hawkinson originally stems this outside, he's worried about getting beat to the flat. So you can see him get flat-footed, momentum shifted outside, break back inside. It's a huge play and a really nice gain right there from Darnold. Look at it from the end zone angle. Nice. Easy completion. And we kind of show you guys a little bit about like, okay, what happens if the defense takes that away, right? Well, again, the design of the offense is really sound, like I said. So right here, we're going to get a motion over here with Hawkinson. This linebacker does a really nice job, kind of sitting inside a little bit on him. Probably a good film study, maybe just discipline. Normally, those quarters players will be, maybe a little bit more threatened to the outside, but he does a nice job staying inside leverage, and Darnold's going to come back to the backside, what I would call like a juke route from Jefferson. Right here, you can see kind of comes up, sits, act like he's going to the outside, breaks back inside, and the timing of everything makes sense, right? With the quarterback's footwork, from where his eyes are going to be, everything is really sound within the offense. You can kind of see Darnold go one, and then eyes leading feet, ball, and a really nice play right there. So if Jefferson doesn't slip, he might score. So I know that was a lot to take in. Probably have some more stuff as we go through the offseason for sure. Kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into some of the stuff, maybe beyond just like 2024, but not super curious about last year, to be honest, with McCarthy, but JJ McCarthy, that is. But we'll continue to kind of look at this thing. Like I said, I think this is going to be Big Mike's offense, so that's why I wasn't really as concerned maybe about who the offensive coordinator was going to be, but hopefully they'll have some level of input and you can get some, we talked about, getting guys in here, even though if they're familiar faces, getting new ideas, things, more modern stuff, implemented into the offensive design could really go a long way, I feel like, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. So again, I appreciate y'all's continued support. Let me know what you thought of the video in the comments, and I will check you guys very soon. Peace and love.